Oh, getting closer and closer to the big day at Woodbine. It is King's Plate week, which means it is the Kentucky Derby for the Canadian bred horses. You will see the best 3-year-old Canadian breds lining up, 17 of them. Field of 17 with a couple also eligibles in the King's Plate. But that's on Sunday. We're going to have a full big preview show Sunday morning. My buddy Barry Spears, the sniper, he's going to join us on Sunday morning. We're going to get through everything for the big Sunday. Right now, let's talk about Friday. Let's talk about that early pick 5 over at Woodbine that starts in race number 2. I'm going to encourage all of you to head to DRF Bets because you can get past performances for free using DRF Bets. Quickly, here's how you do so. Go to DRF Bets right now, sign up, and use the promo code WINNING. Good old Chuck Sheen. And we deposit $250 because they will match all the way up to $250. Promo code WINNING, deposit $250. They're going to match that. So all of a sudden you've got $500 and they give you a $10 free bet just for registration. They'll also load you up with 10 free formulator cards. One card means one track that we're going to be looking at. So one day's past performances, we're going to look at the Woodbine card for Friday. So every time you bet $50 following that, you'll get another credit for a card. So if you're betting a lot, you're not going to have to pay for past performances anymore when you're playing at DRF Bets. Let's dive into Friday. Remember, at Woodbine, Thursday and Friday, the pick 5 pool is guaranteed at $50,000. Always starts in race number 2, that early pick 5. Then they bump it to $100,000 on Saturday, Sunday. And then this week on Sunday, there's like $250,000 in the late one. There's a middle pick 5 that's like a $200,000. Huge guarantees. We'll talk to you all about them on Sunday. Let's get you set up for race number 2. This one's a 7.5 furlong, $15,000 claimer, non-winners of 2. Couple horses in here I'm looking at. I'm going to go to the outside with the number 10, Triggers Bay. The Dam was a 4-time winner on the turf. So you can look at overall this guy, and he's shown a lot of ability, first of all. But he's going to try the turf for the first time. So let's see how he's bred for the grass. Dam was a winner on the turf, major positive. We've only seen one sibling try the turf. So it's really tough to get a feel for if this is a turf pedigree or not. But you feel like there's at least enough there in the grass. And then with what we've seen from him on the synthetic, right? He was he just missed at this level on the synthetic last time out. That was his second start back off a long, long layoff. So now we're going to go third start back off a 10-month break. He has speed. Should be for the place from the outside. I like the number 10 in here. Others to include, Bongino, who is very logical, but those are like your first and second betting choices in a pretty wide open field. I just don't know if I think it's as wide open as the big field may suggest. I thought that the 10 and the 5 were kind of standouts in here. Bongino won at this level and was DQ'd. He was inside. He was just behind the leaders. He was loaded, and he kind of had to push his way through to the 2 path. So it was a tough beat because he was just trying to get out, but I think he did probably foul that day. And they actually took him down, which is something we never know what they're going to do when it comes to New York racing. The 4 would be a price play if I'm looking to use one in this race. In his first couple, he ran into horses that we're going to see running in the King's Plate. Philip My Deer, Kaukokai. So good horses. Then as he's dropped down in class a little bit, we've seen him improve and just get more and more competitive. And I think that was the key. Maybe just been in a little too tough before. I'll go 10, 5, and 4 for my plays in race 2. Horses I might be looking at using in the pick 5, depending on how deep you want to go. I'll probably play one ticket where I single to 10 right off the bat, and then maybe another where I use the others that I mentioned. Race 3, $7,500 restricted claimers going 6 on the all-weather. The 2 that I will look towards to the outside, both the 7 and the 8 were intriguing to me. Might Be Speedy had a good start. Just sat off, was in second, backed up a little bit, and ended up like 5th and was 4 lengths off, made a nice 3-wide bid, and go through his entire career. He wins his debut. He comes back in his second start, and he faces winners. But that was his last start of the year. So something may have gone wrong because we don't see him from November all the way to April. When he shows back up in April, probably needs that race off the bench on April the 23rd. Then June the 11th, they're still at the optional 40 level. They're just kind of trying to figure out where does he fit. And maybe that level is a little too much for him. That was also a shot they just took on the grass. Does he want to try the grass? Maybe he doesn't like it. They come back to the synthetic on July the 7th. He has a little bit of trouble at the start. But then on August the 5th, it just shows this is where he belongs, right around this $7,500 level. I think he's in a good spot here. I think he's very logical at a nice price of 8-1. If he's anything over 6, I'll probably make a win wager on him. The 8 to me is the horse to beat, Executive Chairman. His recent form is just very, very tough to knock overall. You know, you have a string of 5 consecutive races that are really honest. It seems like he's even stepped forward in his last couple. And this is the level. This is the spot. He has a nice running style where he can sit close, but he can also, come from off the pace a little bit more. I don't think he wants to be dead last or anything, but he should be in striking range. 7 and 8 all over for me. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper, horses that I could make cases for. The 5 Highland Society, who's dropping in class. You've got the 6 Alicia's Kid, who's a major, major player in here, obviously, with that good speed. Was a runner-up against open $7,500 claimers last time out. This one is a restricted spot. And then the other would be the 3 Lakeshore Drive, who's just getting massive class relief in here. Early speed and the big drop in class. So he could go a lot longer in here than maybe we've seen in his last couple. 7-8 all over. Then on the next tier, I would have 5, 6, and 3 as we move to race number 4. 6 furlongs on the turf course in the 4th race at Woodbine. Pretty captain obvious in this one. I'll probably just use the 6 and the 9. War Vow was the one that's intriguing to me because she has shown us multiple dimensions in her 2 starts. In her debut, going 5.5, where they were going a little quicker early. She came from off the pace. She finished second, and the race has already come back live because the 3rd place finisher has come back to win their next start. So she's coming out of a productive debut race. And then in her 2nd start, when they went a little bit longer, she showed more speed. To me, that usually means you're just live, right? When you put a horse on the front end, you think highly of that horse in that spot. Now you get the cutback to 6. And I think we could see her somewhere right in the middle, right? Where she's not as fast, but she doesn't have to be coming from 7 or 8 lengths out of it. Can she be sitting 2 or 3 off? I think so. That's the trip I would love for War Vow. So I'll use the 9 and the 6 all over the place. That'll be my top tier. My assistant sat second, just off, moved to the lead. Honestly, that last race was too good to lose. It really was. She's fast. She can sit. She gets a cutback. She ran into a horse named Brienne of Tarth. Shout out Game of Thrones. And Brienne came back to win her next start. So, yeah, 9-6 all over the place. Others that I would look to include. The 8, if you want to include Golden Susie. Her last 3 races are all pretty logical. Like, they fit well with this group. I just like others a little bit more, but she certainly wouldn't be a shock to win this race. And then to the outside, the 10, Bridge to Nowhere, whose dam was a stakes winner on the turf. So maybe there's a little turf. That was the sire. We're looking at the progeny there. We click on the dam, and we want to see the direct pedigree there. So yeah, Dam was a winner on the turf and actually tried Graded Stakes Company on the turf and was stakes placed, and just hasn't produced a whole lot of horses with turf success. But this one started 5 times on the turf. This one only has 1 start. This one only had a couple starts. So not the biggest sample size in the world, but it wouldn't shock to see Bridge to Nowhere maybe show a little improvement on the grass. 9, 6, top tier. And then others to include, I had 10 and 8 as we move to race number 5. 7 furlongs on the synthetic. Let's go to the 7 and 8 for me. I'm going to start with the 8 Grand Bella. Grand Bella's form to me is very logical recently. She tried the turf last time out. She broke her maiden on the synthetic, going 7 furlongs, 2 starts back, and that's where she is. She has speed, but look in her last few races. She can also sit a trip if she has to. She has no problem sitting just off and making an early move. A horse she beat named PS Rising Star came right back to win after the July 1st race. I like the 8. Grand Bella will also include the 7 Speedy John. This feels like the horse to beat. Filly was one that was impressive last time. And if you just key off her sprints, right, the synthetic races that are sprints, 2 starts back, she's on the turf, cross that race out. On June 22nd, she's going a mile and a 16th on the synthetic, cross that race out. And let's just look at the 6.5 on the synthetic. Nice win. The 7 furlongs, she was only beaten 2 lengths that day. That was a much better than it may look on paper effort on May the 27th. And prior to that, May the 13th, she was good also that day when finishing 3rd in her career debut. Speedy Johnny, the one to beat. 8 and 7 for me on top. Others that I would look to include the number 4, Tamana, who was logical coming off of that most recent win, actually had trouble in the debut. They debuted this one against Stakes Company, and the Deuce. So Brianna, whose last race was one of those ones that you just kind of want to put a line right through. A lot was going on. She was 52-1. She's kind of inside and bumping around and checked. But if you eliminate that race, because it was against Tougher, and you get back to July 20th when she was at this level, she was 3rd that day. I don't think she's that far off competing at this level. So I would use her if you wanted to go a little bit deeper as well. 8-7-2-4 in the 5th. Let's get to race number 6. It's the closing leg of that pick 5 sequence. And the number 5 Mountain Sound, I very much like. This filly's first 2 starts were good. In fact, if you're just looking at Beyer speed figures, her 66 Beyer is the best in the field. Nobody else in the field has a better just speed figure overall. And it wasn't like she only did it one time and it's kind of fluky, right? Look at her debut was a 63, and then she came back in her 3rd start and 57. So all 3 of those are within that kind of a similar range. Now, the last 2 races, I think they're just a bit better than they might look on paper, because look at the race on July the 7th. So the top 3 finishers in this race, they were 1, 2, 3 throughout. What does that tell you? Merry-go-round race. There was no passing. This race didn't have a whole lot of pace, and the horses from the back of the pack didn't make up any ground whatsoever. The second place finisher came back to win their next start, earned a 70 Beyer speed figure, Lantana Lady. So the race has come back strong, and it was not a race that shaped up well for Mountain Sound being that far out of it. Now let's look at the August 3rd race. I thought this was sort of sneaky for Mountain Sound. So this is the 4 that we're watching here. And remember, she's got more speed than this too, because in her debut, she's like right on the lead, and she can be a little closer. So not a bad start from the 4, Mountain Sound. She's in the 2nd flight of horses. But if you're someone who watches a lot of replays, you can get the feel already what's going to happen for this filly, unfortunately. She's caught in between horses in the 2nd flight, and there's a flight of 3 in front of her. Like, where's she supposed to go right here? She can't go fast and get up around because that 6-horse Seattle Signal's backing up into her. So now she's trying. She's in a little bit tight. She is able to push through here. And then all of a sudden, she gets kind of up nice into 3rd, and she's got dead aim. And here she comes. But the horse to the outside keeps her pinned in. Still keeping her pinned in and still sort of leaning on her, right? She just can't get out of there. She's trying to push her way off the rail. Even here, the outside horse, the 5, is pushing on her, leaning on her. She's still battling, though. She's still trying. She's right on the lead in the mid-stretch. So she goes from like right on the lead, then she hits a wall right here. She tires and she backs up to 4th. That was a way better than looks 4th place finish to me. She's got ability. She just sort of ran in spots. She just needs to get a better trip. She needs to sort of be asked at the right time. And now the blinkers go on. They will give her some focus. I think the number 5, Mountain Sound is set up for a big performance on Friday, and I will use her along with the Very Logicals, Cherry Gardens, who had a slow start and was last of 9 and was only about, was about 8 lengths off or so, but was 2 or 3 lengths behind the rest of the field, closed widest of all, and was not far out of second. I thought it was a kind of sneaky good effort from Cherry Gardens, and then admissible, Super Logical, the 3. So that's probably how I'll try to close it out with those 3. I think I'll go 5, 6, 3 in race number 6 at Woodbine. This is on Friday, Saturday, stakes races, Sunday, King's Plate Day. We will have tons of coverage for you. Make sure to follow along on social media. It's me, Gino B, or download the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. That's What G Said podcast. Good luck on